My void will consume you, if you ask nicely.
Your will is no longer your own.
Stay away from them. To arms!
You have led the Horde to a place without honor.
Your petty quarrels only make me stronger.
Our world needs us, champion.
You got Juno over your head.
We cannot let the world fall to darkness.
Already lost.
Put your faith in the light, and all is possible.
Is it truly righteousness that drives you? I wonder.
It would seem you have guessed.
They are coming for you. This is the Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to Whispers of War, show number 75. I'm your host Sil, and let's jump into how was my week in World of Warcraft. Believe it or not, I actually jumped a little bit into Classic. So yeah, what did I actually do in Classic? Very lame. I just ran along Aberdeen a lot over the path to listen to the music and the ambience, because if you go past and I think I've said this before, if you run past the little lamps that are all along the path, you can hear that, and it just reminds me of when I started playing 15 years ago. Of course I did a little bit of questing, which was I don't want to use the word tedious, but it was a bit tedious. You know, it takes a lot longer to do stuff. It's really a game that you have to take a lot slower. And I have a really good chat about Classic and what it does to people with the guest of the week. So you can hear that in the interview later on. So that was my Classic time. I really did enjoy it. And then of course there was a BFA, and the gearing of 9 characters is still happening. I'm not that far away to have them just upgraded so that I know if I have to pick which character I really want in Shadowlands, or if they ruin my rogue completely, I might switch to any of these other characters and they won't get pummeled with the first quest. So that's not too bad. I actually jumped into RP a little bit this week. I created some more backgrounds. I filled some backgrounds out, fleshing them out a little bit. And yeah, it was fun. It was really something I enjoyed. And I think there might be, not like a lull, but you can notice that it has started to pick up again. I think because 8.3 has happened now for a few weeks, that people are, okay, well, yeah, I've done this now, I've seen what I need to do. Either I want to continue hardcore grinding for my cloak and necklace and whatever, or I am just going to continue with what I always did. And some people take a break, and some people continue with RP, or they do other things. You know, I see a lot of people go for achievements, mount farming, all those things that you do in a, dare I say it, pre-expansion slump. I have a feeling that we might be in it for a while. I don't personally see it as a slump, but I can understand that for some people it might be. I will go back to raiding, I hope, next week, when I'm able to sit a bit more comfortably behind my computer for a long period of time. Because after a whole day of working behind a computer, I didn't really feel like sitting behind a PC again in the afternoon, evening. So that's why it's been very limited. But I do miss raiding. I do miss the raid team because they are amazing. So that's one of the things. And I'm still wish there was an option to hide alts that you don't play, or if you could just put them in folders or something just to categorize them. Again, I still don't want to delete them, but I might have created a few more alts for RP reasons, and it's a bad thing now. I'm very near 50, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I could, you know, server transfer a few old ones and race change them for the RP purposes, but in a way I'm a bit too cheap for that. Maybe if things like that were cheaper, but I think at the moment, dishing out 20 quid for or something like that, It's not worth it to me. I might as well just spend a week to level something to max. Really. I wish I just had the balls to easily delete things, and I can't. I'm really bad at that. Once my character is max level, that's it. I won't be deleting them. Yeah, I'm one of those. So that's really it. I'm kind of ready for Shadowlands, to be honest. I just want to see new story content. And I love that with 8.3 that we had more story. But at the moment I'm a bit meh. I don't know. It feels a bit boring story-wise. Luckily we'll get that book soon, so that will at least tie me over, I guess. So yeah, that's really what has happened in my week. So without any further ado, I'm going to leave you with an amazing interview I had with the lovely Juno. Keep something in mind. So the first half of the interview, Juno's microphone might sound a little bit tinny. And we found out halfway that it was recording his voice through the camera microphone. He switched that, so the microphone switches about halfway through the interview. So don't go like, well, what the hell is going on with my sound? Why is it different? That's just how it is. It's not bad, but it just sounds a little bit, it sounds different than his proper mic. So that's really it. And yeah, I'll come back after the interview, so I'll see you on the flip side. And with me today, I'm being joined by someone who's almost on the other side of the world, I would say. Welcome, Juno.
I am probably as far away as you could possibly be. I'm on the other side of the world. I'm coming at you from Brisbane, East Coast, Australia. It's such a pleasure to be here. I've listened to the show before. I absolutely love it. I'm a podcast myself over on People of Azeroth. You can find me there. And it's not me, it's the amazing guests that I've had that make the show. So I am absolutely privileged and honored to be here today. Thank you for having me.
That's true, that the guests are very important. I can attest to that.
Yes.
But without the host, there wouldn't be a show. So
well, this is true. We need
short.
to give ourselves some credit. We need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. But no, it's absolutely fantastic. I love being on other shows. Everybody does things a little different. We're all part of the same community, but we all do things a little bit different, and I love that. It's a different spin on the same subject. We're all talking about the same thing, but we spin it a little different. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely, and I think every podcast host, even though sometimes the concepts are the same, you get guests on or you talk about a topic, even so, every show has its own unique flavor.
Absolutely.
So that makes it, I think, really interesting, and it's a way of listening to more people in the podcast community and in the World of Warcraft world, really.
Absolutely, and we can get cross-pollination between servers then, between podcasts, between shows, because you can get people that will listen to your show that make it up to mine and vice versa, and it just spreads all of that around because we all have that common interest, but it's just it's spreading around, and I think that's the amazing thing. And the community, we talk about it all the time, the community is amazing. The WoW community is so full of love and support, and especially in the podcasting world, everybody wants to help and everybody wants to be part of it, and I'm so thankful and so grateful of it. People are just amazing out there.
I know, and with that, I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I've just had a sneak peek on Twitter, and this is more for the YouTubers as well. Even though he does a podcast now, I think that Evitel might be having a baby
right
at this
now
point in time. Right now, I think so. It's very exciting times. I hope that it's not what some people said. Oh, maybe it's just the alpha that they got access to that, and that's why
making
they're
those
so
jokes. I never even went there. My mind never even went there. But I did see recently. I saw a recent YouTube video, and they said she was going to pop at any moment. So yeah, massive congratulations to
yeah.
those.
So I think from all of us, we're very excited for you, and we hope that everything will go well. And yeah, hopefully there will be more good news this weekend.
That's amazing, isn't it? I hope the absolute best, and that's absolutely amazing, isn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant stuff.
I love seeing stories like that. A bit of happiness now and again. So, okay, let's go to the whole. What made you start to podcast? What gave you like, okay, I want to do this now myself, or what was it?
Well, I have to be honest. This is the first and only thing that I would ever classify as a creative outlet that I've ever done. This first creative thing I've ever done. I was playing WoW Classic. Previously I played WoW in a super non-social way. So the whole time that I was playing retail WoW, right through the expansions, I started in Wrath. I started in End of BC into Wrath. played through. I played it very much as a single player experience. Never really engaged in guilds that much. Certainly not on voice chat. And the game was a bit different back then. I didn't even have a headset for years whenever I first started playing. But this time around, I was listening to WoW podcasts coming up to Classic dropping. So I was listening to Countdown to Classic, and I was getting hyped for like 18 months before Classic dropped, because I just thought this was going to be an opportunity to play the game that I missed out on all those things. I missed doing a Nixie at level, I missed doing MC at level, and I wanted to do all of those things. So I was getting hyped. I was on the hype train big time. And I joined a guild playing Classic. We did like 4 or 5 months. It was the most amazing thing. During that time, I'd met people who were doing hosts of other podcasts, and we just had the best Discord, voice chat. And some of the guys just said to me, one of the podcast hosts, my guy Fear from Morally Grey, he had just said, "Hey dude, you know, we have so much fun, like this is hilarious. Why don't you do a show sometime? You should do a podcast." And I never really thought about it, but after all the time we were clipping Twitch streams and we were having such a good time that I thought, you know what, maybe I can do this. And it's these days, technology, like we're so fortunate. You can set, anybody can do a podcast, anybody can create content. And that was what I did. I decided that I wanted to do a show that was the main point of difference for me being that I set out with a goal, a lofty goal, to interview the entire player base. I want to get everybody. So I'll never run out of content. Every single person. So not just content creators, not just famous people. I want to interview the normal, I want to interview a guildie in your guild, in your server, doing what you do. Because what I realized that was when I was playing the game, that the podcasters and the content creators and the YouTubers and the streamers, they're all great. But there's so many amazing people who are just, inverted commas, normal players. And everybody's got a fantastic story. And there's just so many clever, witty, hilarious people there that I want to interview and talk to those guys too.
Yeah, no, I completely get where you're coming from. And, you know, I think we're lucky that we have another podcaster who reaches out to the community, so that's really good.
Yeah, and I mean, it shows with some of the shows, it's proven with some of the shows and episodes that I've done that I've got some of the fan favorites and the most listened to episodes are not even, in inverted commas, famous people, you know, so it just, it shows that, you know, and it's not to take anything away from people, but it's just that everyone's got a voice and everyone's got a story, and I just love that. I've just met so many great people in this community, and I don't know, I'm just hyped up. I'm loving it. Yeah, no, that's really, really good. You notice that the community is when you really reach out to them, you'll get a lot back. And it's one of the things that I absolutely adore about the Warcraft community and the podcasting community for that fact. Okay, let's jump into World of Warcraft. So, the question that everyone wants to know, Juno, are you Horde or Alliance? Oh, Alliance, 100%, lads.
How come?
Well, honestly, the aesthetics for one, the aesthetics was a big thing for me. I love the look. I mean, Stormwind. Like, I just don't think that the Horde cities and the Horde zones compare personally to the Alliance ones. I think for me, it's just that the perfect fantasy, the pinnacle of fantasy for me is Stormwind, you know, Ironforge, the Tolkienian kind of high fantasy. That's it for me, and it's just perfect. And I love that. So, and I love the races too, and like I like to have my characters. I like my characters to look nice. It's weird, but I like them to look nice. And I think especially in the earlier expansions, if you go back to Classic, it's so hard. Like, I challenge anyone, especially if you want to make a female toon, make a pretty Horde toon in Classic and screenshot that shit to me and send it. It's not possible. You cannot make a good-looking Horde toon. Doesn't exist. So I don't know. I like them to be nice. So Alliance is a big thing, and I don't know. I just always like to be the good guys, which I don't know. That's subjective, but in Star Wars, I always play the Jedi, and in WoW, I like to be the Alliance.
I think that's a fair choice. I've heard many people say that, and I know that everything like the factions are much more like grey at the moment. But even so, you know, I think Alliance is still perceived as the good guys, and the Horde, maybe not the bad, but more like the underdogs, or at least you know, not the cookie cutter, like, oh, it's nice and everything is sunshine and rainbows. It's different. No, I completely get that, and especially aesthetics, I think, are a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you play Alliance. What is your main?
Oh, hammers up for all of the paladins out there. It's got to be a paladin. In retail, in retail I've got a couple of tunes, right? I've got a couple of tunes because I think they need to serve different purposes. But ultimately, if someone said, what are you? Like a lot of people, if you ask someone, what are you? I'm a paladin. That's what I am. In Classic, I got a 60 protection paladin, tanked all the dungeons, absolutely love it. In retail, I've got a holy pally that I heal in PvP. I don't like raid healing. There's too much going on. I tried it as a healer. I don't like raid healing. I like DPSing in raid, so I've got an arcane mage that I do that. So again, Alliance side, arcane mage for PvE, holy pally for PvP, and in Classic, dude, paladin all the way. Paladin's the best. So hammers up for all the paladins out there.
That's really cool. Do you have a lot of alts, or is that really?
Oh, I am a firmly diagnosed alcoholic. I've got problems. I haven't been to any meetings, lads. I need meetings. I need counselling. I haven't been to any of those, but I've got alts. I got alts coming out of my ears on the same server, different servers. I don't even know how many paladins I have right now. It's an obscene amount of paladins on all different servers. But no, I do. I've got a lot of alts. I'd love to be main focused, but like I said, I can't even settle on one tune. I've got my paladin I was focusing on. I love holy pally in PvP. I hate it in PvE and I hate questing. I've got a mage. Arcane mage is awesome for ripping through quests and for PvE content, but I can't PvP on it. And I don't know. There's just some things I just don't really like about it. I don't know. I find it a little boring maybe. So I don't think there's one thing that would ever fully satisfy me. The closest I came was I rolled up a Lightforged Draenei Disc Priest, which I found to be the most engaging gameplay I've had in the game, where you're getting the combination of being able to DPS and heal, and you're healing through DPS combined with the Lightforged racial. Even though it's on a long-ish cooldown, I think you can do solid DPS and heal. It's a finesse. You have to add a lot of finesse to your play, and I think it's super engaging. So that's my tip for people out there. So I found that most engaging lately.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you say that you have a lot of alts. Now you also said that you were Alliance. Does it mean though that you sometimes dabble a little bit on the Horde side as well to see that content, or is it a definite no?
Well, it's only very recent. I have to admit that throughout. Now I first started playing this game back in, I think it was 09. Yeah, I think it was late 09. So we're talking about 10 years. I have to admit that I have not seen any of the Horde content in that 10 years until now. I've rolled a Horde Blood Oath Paladin, which I've been leveling through some dungeons. I've been doing some quests, probably not as much as I should. But it's only now that I'm open to it because I've realized that both in retail and in Classic that I'm missing out on half the game by not doing it. So now I'm opening myself up to it, but for the past 10 years, essentially I've played Alliance only.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. I think a lot of people did that in the past. I mean, I certainly know I started that way, and I had to have a second account, I think, to play Horde on the same server.
Oh, PvP server, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I had to, so... I never know what that happened to that account. I think it just got forgotten. I have no idea where it is.
Wow.
So
I have to admit, I was doing the 2 accounts recently as well, because whenever I started getting, I was really getting lost in the source on Classic, and I was leveling a warrior, and it was finding it really, really hard. Like, it was, warrior in Classic is no joke. So I set up a second account. I had a mage. I leveled up this mage, and I was like, this is going to solve all of my problems. Bag space being one. So you've got bag space, so you've got a secondary tune that you can pass all of the stuff over to. You need food and water as a warrior, always heavy on that. You can craft it. So I'm creating food and water. Then it's like supplementing the DPS. So then before you know it, I'm getting around, I'm playing WoW on 2 screens. I'm like got this mage following me around, this poor little slave mage who's like following me around, giving food and water, holding gear, throwing frost bolts. I bought a foot pedal. I've got a foot pedal controller in my mouth. I was like, this is getting out of control. This is not how the game's supposed to be played, you know. So it got a little crazy for a minute.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, well, we'll dive a little bit more into the past. So, how did it all start for you? You know, the moment that you thought, okay, this is now the game for me. What made that? What's that point?
It was the rare and elusive female gamer that got me started onto WoW. It was that, boys. They do exist. They're out there. Not everybody who plays WoW is a guy. There are female gamers out there, and it was in fact, it was my brother's girlfriend at the time. Me and my brother were living together. His girlfriend was playing WoW, and me and him, we'd been gamers like since we were kids. Everything, like we played everything, and we played a lot of offline games. Played Age of Empires, and we had different PCs, and we then both got onto Star Wars Galaxies, and that was the second MMO that I ever played. First one being RuneScape, because we all played RuneScape. I played Star Wars Galaxies, and she had come over one night, and I was playing that, you know, and he had jumped off to talk to her, and she's like, what are you guys doing playing this? Because Star Wars Galaxies at the time compared to WoW was really like rubbish graphics and everything. And she was like, guys, if you want to play this kind of thing, she's like, I don't play it anymore, but I played WoW pretty heavily. And she like logged on and showed us, like, she had this, I think it was a gnome mage or a gnome warlock or something, and she was like, look at this, boys, you could be doing this. So we rolled up, and at the time I think you could play to level 20 maybe for free without a subscription. So we both started up and played, and we were, for that weekend, immediately hooked. And I remember at the time, like, my girlfriend and his girlfriend just sitting on the couch, like arms folded, and just like, she's probably just regretting, why did I introduce these guys to it? So these two brothers are just hooked on it, and they're sitting on the couch watching us. So that was my introduction. It was actually a girl gamer that got me into playing WoW, and it's gone from then.
That's really cool. I like that story. Because often it's the other way around.
It's the other way around now. It was absolutely not. She was roasting us for playing SWG instead of WoW.
I like that. Okay, so let's dive into the past, or it's not really the past, but you know, you've already talked a little bit about Classic. So I would assume that you've dived back into Classic when it was launched.
God, did I dive back into it? Of course I dived back into it. I mean, keep this between us. I took the day off work. I didn't tell my fiance I was taking the day off work because she wouldn't understand it. And if I told her I was taking it, she would have given me chores. There would have been housework and stuff to do. I didn't want any interruptions. So I got up in the morning. Now, we all need to keep this between us. I got up in the morning. I got dressed for work. Now, I was self-employed, so it's not a big deal. I got dressed as if I was going to work. We went to the coffee shop. We got a coffee together. And as I left the coffee shop, I did a U-turn and went back to the house. And I played WoW Classic for 12 hours straight while she was at work.
I'm sure that, you know, no one listens to this podcast, so I think you're safe there.
Nobody's going to tell her. Hopefully nobody's going to tell her. I know she won't listen to it, but that was what I did. I played for 12 hours straight on launch. I was there when Classic launched. I was hyped for 18 months beforehand. I was so pumped. I had this idea of all the things I was going to do and the different tunes and everything. And I got to tell you, it lived up to every expectation I had. I found
That's good.
Not only the game to be amazing, but the social side of it was like nothing I've experienced before. I've made friendships. I got long-lasting friendships now. Things, I mean, we're so lucky in this game. Like, you can play this game and you can have friendships that actually transcend the game to where even when we stop playing this, we're still going to be friends, and we're going to be, you know, potentially people that have met in real life, like lifetime friendships. And whether it's an internet friendship or whether it's in real life, I mean, we're so fortunate that that can come from a video game. And I've got people all around the world that I'm friends with now, and a podcast and a community. It's just so amazing for me that this has all come from essentially the relaunch of a 15-year-old game. It's so powerful.
That's really good. I'm happy to hear that people are still very much into Classic, because as many know, I've tried it, and I love Classic. I actually jumped into it again this week, but I just don't have the time to invest in it anymore. Not with BFA.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing that I do need to bring up is the time. I thought I knew what it was like. I'd actually underestimated the time input, and the grind is real. The grind is real, lads. Seriously. It's a huge time investment required in Classic, and I actually underestimated it. And you even when I've got a 60 main, but when you go back through to even level and alt, it's such a time commitment, and it makes it really hard. And like I said, I had to take a step back from the game. I've said it on one of my shows, and I've said it on stream before. I had to take a step back from the game because I was getting carried away, and my real life was taking a back seat to it. And so I ended up having to take a big step back and get my shit back in balance, because I got a little carried away.
Yeah, the thing is, I've seen so many people say that when people joked in the past about that has no life in South Park episodes, but that's very much Classic, and that's what vanilla was like. I remember I've done some shit I shouldn't have been doing as an adult just to be able to play the game, and before people start thinking I just I called in sick when I shouldn't, things like that.
But it's serious. I'm not afraid to share it, but like I had played retail in a super just casual way for a number of years, and it was never an issue for me. I just play when I had nothing to do, and it was just played it in a super casual and a healthy way, I would describe it. When Classic came, I definitely crossed the line into an unhealthy relationship with WoW. And this is me, I'm not a young guy. I've been playing WoW for over 10 years. I've been playing other MMOs. I know how to. I'm self-employed. I run a business. I've got a mortgage. I've got a family and everything like that. But I have to admit, when Classic came back out, my shit got out of balance, and it was not life-destroying, but I was engaging the game in an unhealthy way, is how I would describe it. By the end, when I reflected on it, and that was where I was at with it.
Yeah, no, I completely feel you on that, because like I said, I've never, ever since vanilla, I've never been like that anymore. I mean, I don't want to think about I could never ever take a sick day now to play the game. I'd no, that's nonsense. Yeah. I wouldn't do that. I'll just get my holidays for that now. But even so, I would never get so consumed by a game like I did 15 years ago. But I can see, and I felt that when I took my week off for Classic, I could feel that it sucks you in, and it drains all your time away, because you start, let's say, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What the hell happened to my day?
And you haven't achieved what you wanted to do. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bizarre. And the fact that you see so many webcomics about it, people ruining their lives by Classic being out, I think there's a small bit of truth in there that you have to watch out with the addictiveness that is that beginning, because as weird as it is, I do think, and I don't know if everyone would agree, but I feel like you get more instant gratification from Classic, because when you level there, it actually means something. That ding means something. Yeah. Whereas when I play in retail, I'm like, meh, it's another level. I just want to reach 120. I don't care. And then that's another one done. That's more how it feels for me in BFA. Whereas in Classic, it really feels like, oh my god, I achieved something.
I agree with you, because to be honest, I play BFA now, and I'm playing both, because that was what I decided to do. Was I basically detoxed myself off Classic, and I thought I used to engage retail in a healthy way, so maybe I should go back to playing that. And I was tempted to just not play Classic at all, because I was really concerned with the way that I was playing the game. As it turns out now, after having the time off, I'm cool and everything. But what I've noticed is that when I play BFA, I don't really get gratification at all about any of the normal milestones. So a level doesn't mean anything, a piece of gear doesn't mean anything. And I'm not shitting on the game, I don't mean to upset people here when I say this, but those things don't matter to me. However, what does it for me, which is probably the same for a lot of people, is if you're like, I'm not a raider really, but I'm sure raiders, when they do it, it's not even for the gear, but it's for doing that thing, it's for downing that boss. For me, it's when I play retail, it's if I do PvP and we get a PvP win and I'm the top of the meters, that's it for me. That's when I get gratification. It's a PvP win. I absolutely love that, and that's what I play retail for. And classic PvP is not the same for me. But when I play classic, I could play classic basically leveling toons the whole time, and I get that gratification of leveling up and progressing through the zone. I could play it as just perpetually leveling different toons. And in retail I do that, but you can cheese it so much when you're leveling. I mean, you can level, I don't even know what you could level from. You could do 0 to 120 in, I don't even know, a couple of days these days. Like it's out of control how quickly you could do it. I'm not shitting on the game, but it's so different to it's not what I would play retail. I wouldn't play retail to enjoy leveling.
I think the focus in retail is completely different than it is in classic for what you get from it, because leveling is the big thing there, and then once you are finally at level 60, that's when you can start thinking about gear upgrades and everything else that comes with it. Whereas, let's face it, BFA is very much leveling is a means to an end.
Yeah.
But in the end, what you need to do is everything else that comes at level 120. Or for those of us, who roleplay, it doesn't really matter. So it's just different.
While we're on the classic subject, I'm not sure if you're across this at all, but the hottest thing right now which is going on in the classic community, this is the hottest stream content, it's the big thing, that is the WoW Classic Hardcore Challenge. Are you aware of this?
You told me a little bit before the show, but not everything. So why don't you explain it to everyone?
Holy shit, boys. So if you want to play Classic and you're not happy with the difficulty level of it, you want to ramp that up, WoW Classic Hardcore Challenge is happening this weekend. There's actually a challenge cup. There's a community cup that's happening this weekend, which involves prizes and stuff. It's a 12-hour leveling contest that's happening this weekend. However, the Classic Hardcore Challenge is going on at all times. It's a perpetual thing. And the gist of it is very similar to the Iron Man contest that went on in retail. And there's been some great communities. I think it's Legion WoW that does that, and WoW challenges. They do that really awesomely on retail. No one's really doing Classic. So this guy, Cargos, who's a big time streamer in the Classic community, he decided to do the hardcore. It's not Iron Man, it's Hardcore Challenge. Long story short, it's a 1 death run through Classic. If you die, you delete your toon. Okay? It doesn't have the same restrictions as Iron Man in retail in terms of gear and talents and stuff. However, it is a solo experience. There's no grouping. There's no sending bags and gold from your main and everything like that. But the idea, when you start to do it and you play through as a no deaths running Classic, essentially what it does is it buffs the world and it nerfs you as a player. You're not a superhero. You have to take, and from an RP element, there's so much RP flavor that goes with it. If you're a little human warrior, a human pally, and you've got your like rusty sword and your like worn leather boots and shit, and you roll up to a cave that's packed full of kobolds or whatever, and you think, am I going to go in here and try and kill their leader with 25 dudes there? Probably not, because they're going to respawn and you're going to get wrecked. So it changes the way you play the game in a really positive way. It slows it down. It changes it, especially with Classic, how we had the dungeon cleave AoE meta that we had for a long time. And it ruined, a lot of these guys will agree, it ruined the Classic experience. They broke the game. This is bringing it back probably more to the way Blizzard had tended to be played, and it's turned the difficulty to 10. It makes for awesome stream content. And the community, there's a whole Classic community that goes to this hardcore community that goes with it. When someone dies, they're doing a death clip. Everybody's putting F's in chats to show respects and everything. So that's the good part of it. However, the bad part is, I've done this twice now. I've done 2 paladins. I've got to level. I've got to level. I've lost both of them. We lost Juno twice. I lost one just today, a few hours ago, in fact. And it's so sad. Like it actually, each time you just think, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? So if someone wants a real challenge, try the one death classic hardcore challenge, lads. But it's no joke. It really is no joke.
Oh no, I know, I would be too frustrated already. I would just be killing boars in Elven Forest all the time. That's all I would be doing. Yeah, that sounds like a proper challenge though. So yeah, that would be really cool.
Go for it.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump a bit towards the future now, because apparently this year we are getting Shadowlands. There are rumors of an alpha coming out very, very soon.
Very soon.
What are your feelings and thoughts when it comes to Shadowlands?
Holy shit, lad. I am pumped. I am captain of the hype chain for Shadowlands. Shadowlands is the messiah for me. This is what I think. I think it is the messiah for World of Warcraft. People know I'm a cynic. I'm a Blizzard cynic. I think I've got opinions on Blizzard as a company. It's a whole nother thing. I'm not happy with the game in its current format, but I think everything I see with Shadowlands, if it's not the destination of where the game should be, it is a really good step in the right direction. I'm pumped about just about everything that Shadowlands has to offer. I think it's going to be my biggest issue with WoW retail at the moment is because I've said before, I love leveling. Shadowlands is going to unfuck the leveling experience, which is a huge thing. A cohesive story at last, where you can level through. Like at the moment, it's totally scuffed. Like the leveling, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. So I'm super pumped about that. The Covenant system, I think, remains to be seen. I'm not super pumped about the Covenant system, but it's the other things that works for me. It's level cap back to 60, unfucked leveling experience, bring back some of the classic elements, pally auras, rogue poisons, etc., etc. I think all of those are super positive changes, and making the old content relevant again outside of just dungeons, I think is just really, really positive.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's interesting to see where it will go. Hopefully it will pan out the way as we want it, because that's always another thing. So you mentioned covenants already. If you have to pick a covenant for your paladin,
yes,
which covenant would you go with, and on what basis do you pick it?
Picking covenant is easy in terms of if someone put a gun to my head and say which one is your main, I would pick my holy pally, my PvP pally. And it's such an easy pick. It's I'm going to say Bastion. I know that's the area, not the people. I think it's what they call the
Kyrians or something Kyrian. Like that?
Yes. So it's the Bastion people. It's the holy paladin angel people. That's the one. When you look at the famous people, like they tell you which person is going to be there. Uther Lightbringer is going to be there, dude. Paladin through and through. That's where my pal is going to be. If you could meet one of those, if the person you're going to meet is like, if the covenant is related to that person, Uther, dude, that's where my paladin is going to be. No doubt about it. You know, that's an easy pick. My other tunes, like my arcane mage, is probably going to be more the crikey, I should have remembered the name of them. I'm not vibing with the druid ones. So let's go off the famous people. So the druid ones is Cenarius. I'm not vibing with them.
Yeah, the Ardenwold.
We've got the ones that are Thrall's mum, Thrall's parents, I think, is the other one. But it's the Kel'Thuzad people, the vampire type people. I'll be vibing with them on my arcane mage. Definitely.
The Venters. They're very popular.
They're super popular. But there's no other choice for Paladin than to take the Bastion zone.
Do you think that the Covenants are now getting people more into their? I know it sounds really stupid, but do you think people are starting to pick these Covenants a little bit more in an RP-ish way?
For the RP flavor?
That people maybe unintentionally go for that.
Absolutely. I think right now they are, but I think sadly what is going to happen is because those covenants are tied to abilities, it will be min-maxed. people will min-max and sim it, and ultimately what will happen is that people will be picking them based on their abilities. The RP flavor will be gone on anything other than RP server. So for me right now, I'm picking them based on what my character is. So like my Pally's going there, my mage is going there, my disc priest is going there. I'm picking that. But when the time comes for the raiders and the PvPers and shit, all that's going to go out the window once you've initially done it. It's going to be min-max, sadly, and the content's going to be spoiled. I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be ruined.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they will balance this to make them all viable options. But I think you're right. It might be.
I think it
really,
sucks
really...
that that's what's going to happen, because I think it's such an awesome opportunity for RP flavor. And I just think if it was more, as much as it sucks to just tie it to more, I think they should have tied it to cosmetic things and story content rather than, or normalize the ability of something, because when you have that big division and stuff, people will min-max it. People do it in the corruption gear already. People are already, like with corruption gear, it's like everybody knows this is the specific XYZ that you need to go for. And they're going to do this with covenants too, you know. It's just sad that that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is a shame. I'm like always, I always bumble along with everything and just go with my RP tastes, with anything. But I can see a lot of my guild, like the guildies who are really, really into min-maxing their characters. I mean, you can see that with their gear and everything that they use. You're right. They will pick the one that will benefit them the most and will get them to do the best healing or the best DPS or whatever it is. So yeah, that's one of those things. So with Shadowlands, with the new leveling experience that we're getting, do you have a plan of how you're going to level your main, but also maybe if you're going to have an alt, how you're going to level?
Well, I'm going to do something that's probably completely different than most people, is that we're trying to recapture some of the WoW Classic magic, which is we're going to roll for all of the guildies, everybody who I've played with through Classic, we're going to restart the guild on a server. Everybody's going to roll a fresh alt, and we're going to pick an expansion to level through, probably Wrath or Mock maybe, I think, and roll fresh tunes. And that's the main thing I'm looking for. I'm not going to be doing the end game initially. It's going to be doing the basic re-leveling with the old crew, with the old guild, and then get to end game together and do it. But I will not be rushing through any of the end game content at all. It's more, I'm so excited to see level. I'm so excited to make leveling relevant again. Really.
Wow.
I know.
That sounds like a really cool idea.
Yeah, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but that's what I'm excited to relive that content with the group of people that I really like playing with.
Okay, are you planning on doing it all, or?
One expansion, probably. We're gonna just, because I know. So my understanding of the leveling experience in Shadowlands is going to be 0 to 10 in the classic zone, which I'm guessing, even if it's slowed down, I'm guessing it's going to be slower than it is now because everything's halved or doubled, whatever way you look at it. I think it's going to take twice as long to get to level 10 than it does now, which is still not that long anyway. Level 10 through the classic zones, and then we will somehow get an opportunity, it'll be a pop-up or whatever, pick an expansion to level through. And I think at that point, everybody picks Wrath, and you're going 10 to 50 through Wrath. That's a long time, like it's a lot of leveling, and that will be one expansion in its entirety. Whether it's 10 or 20, maybe I'm getting it wrong, maybe it was 20. But either way, it should be structured in a way that you get an entire expansion, and you level through and you ding, 50 or approximately 50 right as you've completed all of that content. And I think that's awesome. So I'm really pumped with that. And just do Wrath, for example, start to finish every quest. That's so cool to me.
That sounds really, really cool. Yeah, that's the way of doing it, and I think it's nice that it's like, a lot of people doing it together. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do, because I guess what I'm doing is I'm bringing over the things that I liked from Classic, which was the social element. It wasn't. I've said this before. I think it was like 60%. The game, well, 60%, maybe even 6% social and 40% the game, but it was like a 60-40 of what kept me with Classic, which was the social element versus the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about factions, because we know you're a die-hard Alliance player. But
Yes.
how do you feel about the factions now that there sort of is peace? We all know that peace is very relative in the World of Warcraft, but how do you feel about the factions?
I think realistically, I think we need to be headed to a cooperative situation, a cross-faction cooperative situation. I think it makes sense, and I think that's where we need to go. Like, it makes sense lore-wise. I think it would add a ton of flavor, and I think it adds even more social element to it. I think it made sense in Classic, but I think in retail, there's been so many times. I mean, the precedent's been set with Jaina and Thrall helping each other. I mean, I just think, why can't we? They can talk to each other and communicate. I just think it would add a ton of flavor, man. Like, how cool would it be to have if you're doing dungeons, and there's no reason why you couldn't. I mean, especially with the endgame stuff where you're working together to achieve a goal. Like, it makes sense lore-wise. Like, it's awesome.
Okay.
So I'd love to see that. I don't hate the Horde. I'd love to see Alliance and Horde working together. If anything, I mean, I think if anyone, not that anyone from Grills is probably listening to us, but if they are, I think a great idea would be to, if they didn't do that, flip the power dynamic completely, have Jaina go off the rails, have Jaina be the inverted commas bad guy, and have her going nuts, like nuking cities and shit, and flip that dynamic to where the Horde are the, subjectively good guys, and the Alliance are the guys that are out of control. I mean, I think that would be a really cool dynamic to explore as well.
It would be. It would be interesting to perhaps give the Alliance a little bit more xenophobia than there already is, and just work on that. And yeah, that is a very interesting view. And I think, nowadays, I mean, you have mercenary mode even for PvP, so...
Yeah, well, that's true as well.
There's
I think
options.
they just need to change that. The faction divide thing, I think, is outdated now in the modern game.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's go to something completely different. We talked about it briefly already, but what has the Warcraft community meant to you?
Oh my god, so much. It's allowed me to do the only creative thing that I do, essentially the only creative outlet that I have, that is doing a podcast about a 15-year-old game. I mean, I think it's truly incredible. I've never done a podcast before. I've never done anything with audio, and now, although, I mean, I say this now, I completely screwed up. I've got the wrong mic connected, but normally I do have a high-quality mic, and I do take my audio seriously. I want it to come through crisp and clear. So normally that is the thing too. It's been interesting and it's been awesome to play with and understand how mics work and audio and podcasting and everything that goes with it, and the community connections and how friendly and helpful everyone has been. And I love that it's not a competition. Normally, like, we're all competing against each other in some ways. We've all got podcasts doing similar things, but it's not a competitive landscape. People are helping each other and promoting each other. People are pumping and promoting each other's shows, and I just think it's so cool. And everybody, virtually everybody. I've had a couple of people that haven't responded to my emails, but I'm going to say over 90% of people I have spoke to have on the show have been willing, but also eager as well to do it. And I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for anyone who becomes part of the community, whether that's streaming, YouTubing, or podcasting, or you create art, it's interesting to see how the community really reaches out to everyone. I would like to call that like the creative community. So that's one thing. And then I think having the guests on, that's like another level. Because I think we've all, go to a Facebook. I always use Facebook communities. That's probably where my toxicity level comes from with that. So a lot of the Warcraft toxicity I see is on the Facebook groups where you have your trolls. It's like the cesspool on the forums, and that's what you think the players are at times. That you're like, wow, all these people are horrible. Why am I playing this game with these kind of people? Until you actually start reaching out to people to talk on the podcast. And that is such a shift for me at times. I'm like, actually, that is just a small group that you see on the internet. They're not, you don't hear their voices. They're just typing away something really quickly. Whereas when you get guests on and they actually talk about stuff, that's a completely different side from the community. And it's really, really nice to be part of that and to just listen and talk to people who enjoy the same things that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't engaged in the Facebook communities at all, or even for that reason, I have never actually even shared any of my shit on Reddit, because it's just with so much, especially with Reddit, with so much anonymity, it brings out the worst in people. And I'm totally confident and comfortable with what I do, and it really doesn't bother me with trolls on the internet. It really doesn't. It's not the kind of thing that keeps me awake at night. But I just don't want to deal. It's the risk versus reward thing of dealing with that. I'm just not interested. Whereas I promote it on Twitter and I promote it through the circles that I have, and I get just positivity, dude, and I'm just happy with that. And that's it for me. It might be a little smaller, but I'm happy to just not. I genuinely don't get idiots or trolls or dickheads, and I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, I think podcasters in that regards are quite lucky that we don't get a lot of negativity from people. Negativity is something different, I think, than being critical, because I always say to everyone, you can be critical about the game. God knows I am. And some people are fanboys and girls, and that's fine. Some people want to scrutinize things, that's fine as well. But people who just rip into things because other people enjoy it, no, that's not for me. I don't understand that. I'm sure people have better things to do in their time than try to ruin something that other people have enjoyment.
Yeah, definitely. And even it doesn't matter who you are, like as a person, but like even if you're confident and everything, if you get people that are just shitting on you, I'm sure it gets to anyone. I'm sure it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to a lighter question. What is your favorite in-game food?
Oh shit! Now, because I've got classic on my mind.
That's fine.
Because I've got classic on my mind. I'm gonna say the Thunder Brew Lager, isn't it? Oh no, what is it? Thunder Brew. Yeah, Thunder Brew Lager, isn't it? The one that changes? Oh man, the one that changes. Actually, I'm gonna change that. Because I'm gonna change that. My actual favorite one, does it count? I don't know if this is a potion or a food. Winterfell Firewater, which is the one that's like a potion that makes you bigger. I love that too. It increases your attack power, but it makes you bigger. So it's like, especially if you play a female team, you just go like full Amazonian. You're full Amazonian, and I used to do it like Winterfell Firewater when I was tanking, and you just go like prop pally tank, and you're just like Amazonian woman leading the charge. Love it. So Winterfell Firewater, I was going to do that. That's my final answer. That's what
I like that.
Yeah,
that's a very cool idea. the role player in me is like rejoicing just hearing that.
Yeah. So I love that.
That's a good choice. Okay, I like it. Okay, Juno, we're going to the last question of the show.
Let's do it.
So I'm very curious to what your whisper is. And for those who this is the first time you're listening to, a whisper can basically be anything. So it can be a wish for the game, any game mechanics you want implemented or changed, or a bit of theory crafting about the story. So what is your whisper?
I would love to see some more, and they're already doing it, some more of the classic elements returning to retail. I would love to see the return of, even if it was a more basic and more rudimentary talent tree, I'd love to see the return of the talent trees that allowed more scope for a hybrid setup, not the cookie cutter builds. I'd love to see the return of that. A little bit more player control, so that you're not just defined as one. If you want to be a Frostfire Mage, for example, or you want to be a Ret Holy Pally, or you want to be a Holy Disc Priest, I'd love to see the return of that. and allow a little more flexibility in the class. I mean, they were able to do it back then, and I just think we've come all this way. People know so much more, and the game has developed so much. Let people have a little more flexibility in their builds, and I think that would be, I think it shows now with the popularity of Classic that the Blizzard higher ups should be looking at and saying, let's implement a little more of the Classic elements to retail. And I think you could definitely improve it without alienating the, BFA, the retail. I mean, I feel bad sometimes about saying retail, but the BFA fan base. I think you could implement those things and keep them happy without alienating that player base.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think there was a reason why Classic was so popular. So I am sure that, maybe in the future we'll get more of those things. That would be brilliant. I like that idea. Okay.
The only thing I do want to mention, I mean, it's a little bit spicy. I don't know if you want any spice on the show. You can take this out if you need to. But
no, it's fine.
I've got a couple of issues that I'm thinking about with retail. I mean, with Blizzard in general, and one of them being, now we've heard it recently that they are implementing the WoW Classic token in Classic WoW in the Chinese market. So the Chinese servers have got that now. As it stands, that doesn't affect us at all. And we do know there is a different game. They do bring out a different game in the Asian markets for cultural reasons, and that's fine. Never have an issue with that. But if that's a slippery slope, and if we're headed for potentially all regions to get in Classic to get a WoW token, I think it's going to be hugely detrimental to the game to get a WoW token in Classic across all servers. I really think that. And it doesn't surprise me that's going to happen, because I think WoW Classic is super popular and it's completely non-monetized. So I knew as a company that something was going to happen to have a non-monetized version of the game apart from the subscription, which you also get retail and everything with. So there's that, and with, it's the first time in WoW retail history that you can get mythic BOE blues that can be sold on the auction house. This is the first time now that this has ever happened, isn't it? And in retail, for example, with a WoW Classic, with a WoW token, you can then translate real life money into end game gear, which is the first time this has ever happened. So I'm a little concerned that we've got an emerging not happening now, lads. Don't at me in Discord. It's not now, but it's a top of a very slippery slope that I think we could be an emergent pay-to-win situation in retail in the coming time. And I think within the next 6 months, we will have WoW tokens in Classic as well, which I think will be hugely detrimental to the game as well.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, and I have my views on it. I think, China plays the game in a completely different way than most of us do. I think they already have different regulations when it comes to stuff like that, and also I think a lot of, again, I'm just going by things that I've heard. I think that a lot of people play WoW in internet cafes, so it's a little bit different, It's more like pay for your time and things like that. So I kind of understand why the WoW token would help them with. I don't know if it's also to do with gold farmers, but that's something for them. I get where you're coming from if that would come into Classic, because you could say, well, in BFA we have tokens, you can buy gear already from the auction house to upgrade, but you know what? The only time that I do that, when I do buy gear, is to give myself an edge with questing, or just to get, onto that threshold of, okay, when I do World Quest now, at least I get a little bit of better gear. It's just, just to tip yourself over. I'm sure there are people out there who have so much gold that they're like, I'm buying the best things that are out there, but you still can't get everything that you need. And, gold is being used for boost and things, which is fine. But I think the focus for Classic and BFA with what you get out of them and how different, I'm not going to say harder. You have to work for each game. It's completely different.
It's different,
you're right. If it comes to Classic, the chances of it becoming or sounding more like a pay-to-win kind of game is very slippery. And I think what they have to watch out for, because we've seen a lot of MMOs that becomes their downfall, because I think, and some games have really gone the whole shebang with pay to win. Doesn't always work for every game, and some games die. And I think, however, with World of Warcraft, I think they have to watch out that even if they just think about doing this for the Western market, you have to watch out, because the player base is in such a mindset about what they want for the game that even if they just go, oh no, well, we're just thinking about it, that could already damage them. Well, that people go, you know what, this is where it's going, I don't want to play this anymore.
No, and my thing is, like, just to be clear, like in BFA, I have absolutely no issue with the WoW token at all. I think it's great, but and how they can avoid getting critiques by people like me and potentially ruining the game is, it's the issue is that it's the first time now in retail that you can essentially buy, so end game, the best quality gear, so the highest eye level and the best corruption effects can be BOE on the auction house. That's never existed before. If they had that sitting, I'm sure everyone agrees, right? As a Mythic Raider, the best gear in WoW should be reserved for Mythic Raiders only. That should be. I think everyone would agree with that. The absolute best gear should be that. And if you're not a Mythic Raider and you're not in that group, you shouldn't have access to that gear. And I've never had it before because I don't Mythic Raid. But I don't like the idea that you can have the best corruption effects of the best gear in the auction house, that then someone, if you're not a good player but you want to torch, $100 or whatever to buy 4 WoW tokens, that then you can buy that gear. If someone wants to spend that money, that's one thing, but what the worst possible outcome of it is, that say someone's on a raid team and then you get pressure from people. And again, this is only at the start of the situation, but if we do continue this to where max level gear is available to buy with gold, you could have someone on a raid team that then's getting put pressure on them to say, well, you need to buy the newest gear. If you can't win it, you need to buy a WoW token. Don't be a scrub. And then before you know it, people's real lives are being impacted in their personal finances. I think, yes, maybe that's extremist, maybe that's tinfoil hat territory we're entering. I'm just saying we're at the top of the slope of that I really hope we don't go to.
True, and the thing is, yes, some of the listeners might go, oh, I would never do that for my guild, that's not the right guild. That's fair enough, but there are other people out there who might be very sensitive to stuff like that. We're all different, and we all react different to things, so some people might feel that pressure and might do things that they actually really would regret. And, I agree with you. I think, everyone knows I'm a consumer whore, so I love getting the WoW tokens because I'm far too lazy to grind for gold.
Yep. I bought them too. I bought them as well. I bought them, so I'm not
And, for me, I'm not... Anyone who wants to do that, that's fine, but I think I do feel like there needs to be limitations on what you can get for it, and I really stand by it that I don't feel like it should be in Classic, just because... And maybe that's a little bit of the elitist in me, but back in the day when I was raiding in Classic, it felt like, when you got your sets for your class, people would see that because there was no transmog. It felt like you achieved something. Like, this is the gear that is supposedly the best for my class. I've achieved something. I'm proud of what I have. And to put that aside and either buy your way into a raid or get like the better gear that is sometimes, the bind on equips that sometimes drop. I just don't. It needs to feel something. You need to feel like I've worked for this.
It'll cheapen it completely, yeah. I mean, I would like, because I've been shitting on Blizzard a little bit, I would like to turn it around a bit and give them at least a little bit of props. The fact that they haven't gone the way that, say, I played a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic, and they went the way of the in-game gambling boxes, which I really didn't like. So they would have, if you in the cash shop, if you wanted any of the new sick stuff that came out, you couldn't really buy it directly. You had to win it from these loot boxes. So it was like you'd have to buy all of these, and you're rolling the dice, and it was in-game gambling. You're spending real life money gambling that you're going to win some of this sick stuff. And I really didn't like that, and I think that's that's crossing a whole nother bridge of adding gambling into this deal. So I give Blizzard props that they haven't actually done that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you know, I know that people sometimes are very strong with things like the loot boxes in Overwatch or anything like that. Those for me are less than what Star Wars did, personally, because I don't know. I feel less about that, but I do feel that
Star
they're
Wars
not
was
doing
bad.
a bad thing.
Star Wars was bad. I mean, like I've said it before as well, but it's like they basically triple dipped. It was a AAA priced game. It was over $100, $120 here in Australia. So you've got the AAA price, you've got the subscription, and then you had further monetization of things in terms of server transfers, and then a cash shop. And then even though they went free to play, on top of that, then you're talking about loot boxes, that if you want that really sick stuff, it was into loot boxes, which then sometimes got undermined and got sold separately at a later date in the cash shop. It was really, really scummy for a while on Star Wars. I haven't been on there for a long time, but they triple dipped the player base, which I think is really, really poor.
Yeah, it's really a shame that companies have to resort to stuff like that. It's just, I find it really very disrespectful to the player base and to the fan base. Let's just hope that Blizzard will never ever feel
never go to that point
like that.
Yeah.
Because then, that would not be a good thing for the game. All right. Well, we've been talking for a very long time.
We're coming up on an hour, aren't we? Yeah.
I know. So I'm just going to thank you for being such an amazing guest. It was absolutely lovely talking to you, Juno.
I really appreciate it. I mean, I'm sorry my audio, I was completely screwed up. I mean,
don't worry about that.
An embarrassment as a podcaster. I've got a studio quality mic, and I didn't realize, but it picked up my webcam mic. So we've done this on a webcam mic. Apologies to everybody out there, because I know how important it is when you're driving along in your car, you've got your headphones in, and you want that crisp audio. So apologies to everybody, but I really do thank you for having me on here. It's been amazing, and I love being part of these other shows and being part of the community. It's fantastic.
No, it's lovely having you. If people want to listen to your podcast and find you and connect with you on the internet, where can they find you?
So you can find me anywhere where you get your podcast. If you Google or just search People of Azeroth, that's the name of the podcast. People of Azeroth is the show. On Twitter, I'm at People of Azeroth 1. You've got to change the H for a 1 because the name was already taken, unfortunately. People of Azeroth podcast at gmail.com. And in the Discord, I might just send it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll send a link for some of that other stuff. But I'm happy for BNet. I'm happy to put my BNet thing out there and Discord name and shit. Happy to interact with any of you fine people. That's what I like to do, is talk to people, hit me in there, and communicate with me on Twitter, anything like that at all. I absolutely love it.
Perfect. I'm sure people will do that. So thank you again for being an amazing guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I hope you enjoyed that interview. It was lovely talking to Juno. Make sure you check out his podcast. And yeah, let's go on to all the other stuff. Now, since we're already running a little bit long, I am going to just leave it with this. No tweets this week. I will come up with... Okay, I'll confess I forgot a question. That's really why. So I'll leave it with that. I do want to say two things. I want to give a huge congratulations to Amanda from the Geek Herring and of course Tom from 3 Extra Lives for their engagement, and also a big congratulations to Taliesin and Evital for the birth of their beautiful baby boy. So yeah, it's been a good week for happy news, I think, for everyone. So let's continue this trend, okay? I think that's a really good thing for 2020. Let's just only hear happy news. So yeah, I am going to leave you with this. I have some roundtables planned, so that Whisper Wednesday might start to happen as well. If you want to be part of that, keep an eye on Twitter. Send me a message, and even if you want to be on the show, but not maybe for the interview section, but you're like, oh, I really want to talk about, you could do all sorts, RP or PvP or anything like that. just send me a message, and I'll see if I can get a group together of people, 2 or 3 other people, and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to contact everyone who said they were interested this week, and we'll get something together soon. I hope. Also, make sure that you listen to Girls Gone WoW. If you are not subscribed, what are you doing? Of course, you need to be subscribed to that podcast as well. Because the lovely ladies had me on as a guest. It was a lot of fun. It reminded me of the old days when we were still hosting with the 3 of us. But the girls have just made the podcast amazing. So much better than I could have ever wished for. So, yeah, you need to listen to that podcast. We talked a lot about RP and all sorts. And you can hear about other people playing the game. And, you know, it's always great to hear about the community. So make sure you listen to that show as well. Where can you contact the show? If you want to know more or find out more, you can go to whispersofwar.podbean.com, or if you want to participate in the discussion on Discord, go to dragonpoweredstudio.com/Discord. Twitter, that's the best way probably to reach me, is at whispers_of_war, or my personal one, which is McMonkeys with a Z. There is a thing like email. Go to whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com, or follow me on twitch.tv/McMonkeys with 2 Zs. I keep saying that I'm going to stream, but in all fairness, I kind of got the bug again when I was streaming yesterday with the ladies from Girls Gone WoW, so I might actually start doing this soon. I just need to pick a game, and I don't really want to stream my leveling in World of Warcraft, because I don't think a lot of people will find that interesting. So, yeah, I think we need to find something new. Okay, have a wonderful week, you guys. I hope that everyone has some good news this week, and I'll talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.